Here are the top stories for today, September 24, 2019. Malacanang assures the public that the blocking of loans from 18 countries will not negatively affect the economy. A tribal leader from Mindanao bears the sexual abuse done by CPP-NPA leaders on IP members and salugpungan students. The palace questions the blocking of a Philippine civilian resupply mission in Ayungin Shoal by the Chinese Coast Guard. And Israel opens 1,000 tourism-related jobs for Filipinos this December.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Malacanang allayed fears that the President's order to suspend all negotiations and loan agreements from the 18 countries who supported Iceland's resolution will have a negative impact in the country. More on this from Bench Bondok.
Several critics reacted to President Rodrigo Duterte's order not to accept any loans and grants from the 18 countries who voted yes to Iceland's resolution. The Iceland-sponsored United Nations Rights Council resolution is calling for an investigation on the country's anti-illegal drug campaign. According to presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo, President Duterte issued the order because he felt insulted as it presupposes that the Philippine courts are not doing anything about the complaints and abuses. However, he said the order will not have a negative impact on the country.
It will not dramatically, even slightly, I think, impact on our economy. For one, the loans and agreements that are currently in existence are being implemented, so it will not affect. He cannot comprehend why Iceland is so concerned about the alleged brutal slaying of suspected criminals which occur because the lives of those people who are enforcing the law are endangered, and yet it has a law that allows killing, murdering unborn children.
For Cagayan de Oro's 2nd District Representative Rufus Rodriguez, Duterte's order is a knee-jerk reaction.
Ang nagni-knee-jerk sila. Yun ang knee-jerk. They don't know the facts. They don't even know kung merong existing loans. Ayan, we presented to you.
Panelo explained that the chief executive would never put the nation's dignity over monetary aid. He also denied that Duterte would also shun other countries that would support any probe into the drug war. He said the palace, for the meantime, will only focus on the countries that voted in favor of the Iceland resolution. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Bench Bondok.
Meanwhile, Malacanang on Monday said that critics of the Duterte administration anti-illegal drug campaign should take their cue from Filipinos who believe otherwise. This after the SWS released its second quarter survey, which showed that 82% of Filipinos are satisfied with the government's drug war, while 12% were dissatisfied and only 6% were undecided. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said the survey results are the palace's response to critics who believe that the drug war is marred by police abuses. Meanwhile, PCOO Secretary Martin Andanar welcomed the survey as timely and relevant, especially at a time when opposition has resurrected the issue of extrajudicial killings. Andanar said no form of investigation from outsiders or critics is warranted to probe the Duterte administration's anti-drug campaign. PNP Chief General Oscar Albayalde also welcomed the survey, noting that it has been excellent for 3 consecutive years, while PDEA Director General Aaron Aquino said the high satisfaction ratings leaves the PDEA more driven to achieve victory over the drug menace.
In fact, that is a response to the critics. The survey shows 82%, and it has been unchanged since 2 years ago, I think. Anong ibig sabihin nun? These are the people who know the circumstances on the ground. These are the respondents as by SWS. Kung talagang may problema tayo sa pag-aabuso, lalabas sa survey yun.
President Duterte on Monday is said to be outraged by the death of 20-year-old PNA cadet Darwin Dormitorio due to alleged hazing. According to presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo, the president is confident that authorities will prosecute those involved in what he described as an oppressive act. Panelo said there would be no need for the president to issue any directives to the PMA since authorities already know how to handle such incidents. However, he also lamented that there is a failure in leadership as regards to being negligent in not stopping this murderous ritual, which has no place in a civilized society. Last year, Duterte even signed into law the Anti-Hazing Act of 2018 to ensure that all practices of hazing are checked and all practitioners thereof are penalized. On Sunday, the PNP said it was already considering as suspects the 3 third-class cadets who were earlier identified as persons of interest in the death of Dormitorio due to blunt force trauma last September 16.
Siyempre, galit siya sa nangyayari. Alam mo si Presidente, he's one man who is always outraged by any kind of oppression. And hazing is an oppressive act. Kasi sinasaktan mo, intentional, murder nga ang dating pag namatay. Siyempre, ayaw niya yun.
And in other news, President Rodrigo Duterte ordered the Department of Energy and other concerned agencies to look for other sources of oil to maintain the country's current energy supply. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said this was Duterte's directive to cushion the impact of rising oil prices following drone attacks on government-run oil facilities in Saudi Arabia more than a week ago. Several oil companies have already increased their prices of fuel products for the second week in a row on Tuesday, September 24, due to supply issues. Chevron implemented an increase starting 12:01 a.m. Prices of gasoline increased by 2 pesos and 35 centavos per liter, diesel at 1 peso and 80 centavos per liter, and kerosene at 1 peso and 75 centavos per liter. Meanwhile, Petron, Shell, and Total also implemented the same increase starting 6 a.m. as well as PTT, Phoenix, and Petrogas. However, Clean Fuel will increase its gasoline by 2 pesos per liter and diesel by 1 peso and 50 centavos per liter starting 12:01 a.m. of September 25.
Inatasan niya na sila yung mga involved na agencies na maghanap ng ibang mga sources ng oil para manatili yung ating supply. Inalos hindi tayo magre-rely nun.
Marikina strengthens its immunization campaign against polio, and Quezon City set up a 24-hour checkpoint to contain the spread of African swine virus. More on these from Janice Cabe.
The city government of Marikina on Monday urged parents of around 40,000 children aged 5 years old and below to bring them to the city's barangay health centers so they could get oral polio vaccine. This amid concerns on the reemergence of polio in other parts of the country. Mayor Marcelino Teodoro made the call after the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund asked local government units in the Philippines to help promote polio vaccination in their cities. Meanwhile, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte said they already contained the African swine fever virus in the area and is now in the process of clearing affected areas. The local government has established 24-hour checkpoints in all the markets and slaughterhouses to ensure that unsafe pork and pork products are not sold in the city. In other news, Interior Secretary Eduardo Año on Monday urged lawmakers to name those cops allegedly involved in recycling illegal drugs. Año made his call after former CIDG and now Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong reportedly identified the cops and police officials involved in the recycling of illegal drugs in an executive hearing in the Senate last week. Año assured that the Philippine National Police is doing its best to enforce the law and ensure public safety by going after scalawags in uniform. For his part, PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde said they are now monitoring rogue cops that appeared in the PNP's previous watch list. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Still to come, a tribal leader from Mindanao bears the sexual abuse done by CPP-NPA leaders on IP members and Salugpungan students. PAGASA monitors the smog from the forest fires in Indonesia that is affecting Cebu City. More on this when the PNA Newsroom continues.
We've been displaced to our own community because of them. And we are here because we want the international community, you, the one who is listening us, we want you to help us. We want you to know that this is happening to us in Mindanao. We want you to know that we are dying in our own community because of the CPP-NPA. They are killing us. Because for the past 50 years, the CPP-NPA steal our community, steal the development of our community, steal the peace that we're supposed to enjoy in our own community. They steal the people that we're supposed to have in our own community. He killed our tribal leaders who go against them. He killed our youth, our young generation. They convert them into a child warrior and go out to war against our governor. Then die.
It's a great help because it's different when the ambassador, when the consul, when government officials tell the Europeans, including think tanks, about the situation in Mindanao, about the situation with IPs. It's different when it's the indigenous people themselves who come here with their heart-wrenching stories, telling the Europeans what is happening is the truth. Here you have the IPs themselves saying the government is doing what it needs to do, and they're talking about how they can be assisted directly without money going to terrorist groups.
On the side of the international community, we also have to make our job to make sure that the organization that we support provide records of the way they spend the money they receive and what they've achieved on the ground, which is the normal procedure. When we support some organization, we always ask, first we monitor the activities, and then, but we are not on the spot. The government, of course, should also do its part of the work.
Our future generation is in great danger. Help us to stop the abuses, violence, and tragedies we suffer as a tribe in their hands.
A tribal leader from Mindanao on Saturday bared that he was sexually exploited by a commander of the armed wing of the Communist Party of the Philippines. In an engagement hosted by Ambassador Eduardo Jose de Vega at the Philippine Embassy in Brussels, Datu Langilan Asenadbago of the Matigtalomo Manobo tribe shared before the Filipino community how he was sexually abused by the communist terrorist group. Bago shared that his most painful part in the Salugpungan school was when he and his cousin were being raped by their gay teachers who are also commanders of the armed group. Bago said he was only 14 years old at the time. He reveals that other students in Salugpungan schools also experienced sexual abuse from their gay teachers. Bago asked for support from the members of the Filipino community in order to attain justice for the IPs. The IP leaders also called on Filipinos in Belgium to condemn the terrorist inhuman treatment to them and refrain from donating money to front organizations that channel the funds to CPP-NPA. Ambassador De Vega advised the Filipino community to help the National Commission on Indigenous People, which protects and promotes IP rights. Malacanang on Monday slammed China after its Coast Guard ship blocked the path of 3 Philippine civilian vessels in Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. Presidential spokesman Salvador Panelo said the move to block the vessels that were on a resupply mission to BRP Sierra Madre objectionable. The incident happened last May 14, almost a month before the June 9 Recto Bank incident where a Chinese vessel rammed into and sank a Filipino fishing boat and abandoned the fishermen at sea. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo questioned why China would block a resupply mission. The palace official said Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. is already preparing a protest against China's actions. To date, the Philippines has filed several diplomatic protests on the continued presence of Chinese vessels in Philippine waters. A lawmaker is seeking to restore the original budget which was proposed by the Department of Agriculture for 2020, amounting to 333.2 billion pesos. Magsasaka Party List Representative Argel Kabatbat filed on Monday a resolution which urges the House Committee on Appropriations to restore the funds slashed in DA's 2020 budget. Kabatbat noted that the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, reduced the proposed budget of the DA to 71.8 billion pesos. He said the budget cut would severely compromise DA's obligations to resolve the issues and problems in the agriculture sector and formulate much-needed social protection programs. Kabatbat also stressed that a bigger budget for the DA is in line with the pronouncement of President Duterte to prioritize the agriculture sector. Agriculture Secretary William Dar assures that safeguards are in place against over-importation of rice as one of the measures to stabilize the supply and price of the commodity. The DA has started the investigation on the excessive importation of rice, particularly with the forthcoming main harvest season. Dar cited the Anti-Dumping Act of 1999, where government can impose anti-dumping duties on imports of any product that are priced way below the current fair market value. Another option is to impose stringent sanitary and phytosanitary and inspection measures of rice imports. Dar said that to date, some 2.4 million metric tons of rice has already been imported, which has gone beyond what is needed by the country. He said they intend to protect small farmers by not allowing additional imports, especially this main harvest season. PAGASA monitors the smog from Indonesia affecting Cebu City. Meanwhile, 3 persons die in a vehicular collision in North Cotabato. More on these and other news from the provinces from Teresa Montemayor.
PAGASA forecasts that the haze experienced in Metro Cebu brought about by the Indonesian forest fire will dissipate in the next 2 to 3 days due to the change in wind direction. This as the Environmental Management Bureau in Central Visayas on Monday conducted a visual assessment in the hinterlands in the city following the reports of poor visibility due to the haze. Meantime, the general public is still advised to take safety precautionary measures such as wearing a face mask and avoiding prolonged outdoor activities. Meanwhile, local government units in the Cordillera Administrative Region work double time to clear roads of obstruction as the 60-day deadline set by the Department of the Interior and local government nears. The LGUs are required to submit regular accomplishments for consolidation and submission to the Office of the President on or before October 11. In his State of the Nation address last July, Duterte ordered LGUs to reclaim roads used for private use. The deadline to comply is September 29. In other news, 3 persons have died in a collision between a bus and a car in Barangay Bialong, Malang, North Cotabato on Monday. Senko Makaed, the Secretary of Barangay Bulyok, Pagalungan, Maguindanao, died on Monday night while in critical condition. His companions, Kisaima Masalagat, Village Chief of Bulyok, and staff member Alan Anta earlier died on the spot. The incident happened on their way to General Santos City when their vehicle slammed into a rural bus transit as they swerved after overtaking another vehicle. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Teresa Montemayor.
Up next, Israel opens 1,000 tourism-related jobs for Filipinos this December. Environmental groups protest the operation of coal-fired power plants in Bataan. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Because that document of President Duterte basically encompasses our aspirations as a people. Environment, progress, eradicating poverty, human rights. So that document is our Bible, and that guides the Philippine mission and the DFA in general in all of our engagements, multilaterally and even bilaterally with the world. This year's UNGA is different in the sense that there are 5 summits to be held, 5 and high-level meetings, meaning at the head of state level. And we already had an idea that these meetings will be held as early as last year. There are 2 events that the Philippines is organizing. So, in a sense, these represent some of our national priorities. Side event on migration, specifically human trafficking and migration contexts. This is a continuation of our efforts to make sure that the issue of migration and all of the other aspects covered by it, including human trafficking, is put at the forefront of the discussions. And the second event that we're organizing is middle-income countries. There's a group of friends within the United Nations whose aim is to elevate the issue of the unique challenges faced by middle-income countries. The primary world organization, where majority of the states of the world are represented. And it's become a very effective platform for us to talk, to build alliances, to thresh out disagreements, and collaborate despite our differences.
At least 1,000 jobs will be opened for Filipino workers in Israel's tourism industry by the end of the year. Israeli ambassador to the Philippines, Rafael Harpas, expects at least 1,000 jobs to be opened for Filipino workers by December. With the increasing tourist arrivals to Israel every year, Harpas noted they saw a lack of workers in their tourism industry, prompting them to seek overseas jobs with Filipinos as priority. Israel has prioritized Filipinos to work and stay in their country due to the good relationship established by the leaders of the 2 countries. It is also grateful for the service provided by at least 40,000 Filipino caregivers to their families. This developed following President Rodrigo Duterte's signing of a bilateral labor agreement during his visit to Israel in September 2018. And in our foreign news, 30 independent UN experts on Monday jointly published an open letter calling on countries and social media firms to take action to curb the spread of hate speech. The experts hope to seek out against an increasing number of reports about hate speech and incitement to discrimination, hostility, and violence. They reminded that generalizing entire groups of people as dangerous or inferior had led to the catastrophic tragedies in the past. The experts urged states to promote and adopt policies of tolerance. They called on traditional and social media companies to exercise due diligence to ensure that they did not provide platforms for hate speech or incite hatred and violence. The World Health Organization urges all countries to increase spending on primary health care by at least 1% of their GDP. In its latest Universal Health Coverage Monitoring Report, the WHO warns that the world will have to double health coverage between now and 2030. Otherwise, up to 5 billion people will still be unable to access health care by then. The report estimates that spending an additional $200 billion a year on primary health care would potentially save 60 million lives, increase average life expectancy, and contribute significantly to socio-economic development. Countries can do so by either increasing public spending on health, reallocating spending towards primary health care, or by doing both. Meanwhile, the WHO calls on countries to scale up service coverage, especially for lower-income countries and rural areas that are still lagging behind in health, infrastructure, health workers, supply systems, and the quality of care. An environmental youth group is protesting the operation of coal-fired power plants in Bataan. They cited the hazards brought by coal power to the environment as they called for cleaner sources of energy. More on this from Janice Cave.
At least 30 young men and women, joined by several adults, held on Sunday a sit-down protest against the operation of coal-fired power plants in Limay, Bataan. Members of Young Bataeños Environmental Advocacy Network covered themselves in black to symbolize the pollution brought by the coal plants to their communities. YBIN spokesperson Jess Dizon said they were holding the sit-down strike as part of the observance of the week-long global climate strike from September 20 to 27. She noted that at the back of the area where they were holding the protest action was a coal-fired power plant that has been adversely affecting the health of villagers. She said the young men and women who joined them came from various schools and villages affected by the coal power plant operation. Dizon said beyond jobs and industrialization, people should see the deeper effect of the plants on everyone's health. They are also advocating the use of renewable energy as a solution to the country's power problem. She expressed hope that the provincial government would heed their call to act against the coal power plant operations and instead promote a cleaner source of energy. Dizon likewise called on authorities to stop the cutting of trees along Roman Highway in the province for the purpose of road widening. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Let's check out the weather forecast from PAGASA. A low-pressure area will bring cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms over Luzon and Visayas. The LPA is expected to move towards the extreme northern Luzon. That will bring cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms over Luzon area on Thursday, September 26. Meanwhile, Mindanao and Visayas will have partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers and thunderstorms. Here's another look at today's biggest stories.
Malacanang assures the public that the blocking of loans from 18 countries will not negatively affect the economy. A tribal leader from Mindanao bears the sexual abuse done by CPP-NPA leaders on IP members and Salugpungan students. The palace questions the blocking of a Philippine civilian resupply mission in Ayungin Shoal by the Chinese Coast Guard. And Israel opens 1,000 tourism-related jobs for Filipinos this December.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.